What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero back with another Retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and this is going to be a special video because we hit 800 subscribers on the channel recently, and so this will be the 800 sub special. And for this 800 sub special, we are actually having a bit of a jank off. So, Critter format, very popular format, made up of the first two booster sets, Legend of Blue Eyes and Metal Raiders, along with the Starter X Yugi and Kaiba. And it's a very popular format. There's a lot of, very sort of complex play with things like Mask Control, and you've also got Exodia decks, and now you have the new sort of Labyrinth Tank meta deck, which, we'll see if that remains meta or not, but it just shows that there's a lot of interesting depth to explore in this format. Now, there are a lot of very good decks in this format. This is, I'd say, not really one of them, because there are actually two strategies introduced in Metal Raiders that are just so jank that everyone kind of universally says, okay, yeah, these are just, you're never going to pull them off, but, they're kind of interesting to put out there. I didn't actually explore them on my channel when I explored Critter because they're so jank and you'd never actually be able to pull them off. But for the 800 sub special, me and my good buddy Janjo, who, definitely check out their channel, link in the description down below. But we had a bit of a jank off. So we faced off a Great Moth deck against a Gate Guardian deck. And now both of the decks were made by Janjo, the master of spice. So, we had them as spicy as possible. And I picked the Great Moth deck to go with because I think the Great Moth is kind of cool, and its condition is very, very interesting and very strange. But if you can actually pull it off, like, that is just incredible to see. And I do think it's probably easier to pull off the Great Moth condition than the Gate Guardian condition, because Gate Guardian needs two tribute monsters on field to bring out the big monster from hand, whereas the Great Moth only really needs the Petite Moth and the Cocoon of Evolution over the course of 4 turns. If you think about how long it will take to sort of get the material on field for a Gate Guardian, I think you're probably going to be able to get the Petite Moth and Cocoon of Evolution to go off first, then the Gate Guardian combo. Now, of course, it does have some flaws. There are some things that do stop the Great Moth combo that don't stop the Gate Guardian combo. Things like Heavy Storm can just, get rid of your Cocoon of Evolution and depower your Petite Moth. But I do think it's a very cool deck, and so we are just going to, try it out. I'm not going to go through a strict card by card here. You can see all these sort of things on screen here. And you'll note that we are playing a bit of an Exodia package as sort of a backup here. So we tested this out in Game 1, and then Game 2, I actually sided it out because I wanted to focus more on the Petite Moth strategy as opposed to the Exodia piece of strategy. But if you are realistically making like a Petite Moth deck to try and compete with people, you probably should have the Exodia win condition in there because that's an actual win condition, unlike Great Moth. But I think that this deck is really, really sick, and again, I'm not going to go through the card by card on it because I want to dive into these games. And I'll also be showing off Janjo's deck that they played for the Gate Guardian later in the video after the duels are done. But why spoil the surprise and, show off some of the spicy techs that they're playing? Let's just dive into the games and see how they go. Okay, we've got a game against Heavy Metal Raider, or as they're known, Janjo, from the Janjo Zone. Again, subscribe to their channel if you're not already subscribed, and check them out. They do a lot of also really cool retro Yu-Gi-Oh content. But yeah, we're going to dive into the game right away. And we do win the die roll, which is important for both of these decks, in my opinion. We also have Witch plus Cocoon in hand. So Witch can search us out a Petite Moth, and Cocoon can sort of set up the Great Moth combo here. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. They're going to Thunder Dragon, add 2 Thunder Dragons. Oh, add 1 Thunder Dragon. Uh-oh, you never want to see that. Kind of unfortunate start for them. We're just going to flip up a Witch and start hitting in here. If they want to use removal on this, then that's fine by us because, we get the Petite Moth in hand. We've got Great Moth as well. That's always the hardest part of this combo, actually drawing into your Great Moth that is unsearchable. So very good to see here. They're just going to set one of their own. We draw swords. We're just going to switch the Witch to defense, pass back to them. And let's see what they do here. They're going to tribute over that Witch for a Thunder Dragon. And it's perfectly fine by us. We're not going to trap hole that because we actually want the Witch to die. So I feel good about that. They're going to hit into the Witch here. We're going to search out that Petite Moth and get the combo online. We've got Solemn to protect the combo a bit. We've also got Swords. So we've got ways around this. So hopefully if they do have Heavy, then we're still in a good spot. We're going to bring in this Petite Moth and equip it with a Cocoon of Evolution. So that will change stats. Then we're going to set this Waboku here and set a Solemn. They're going to fire an Ultimate Offering here, which is Kind of worrying for us, but it means that they might not be on heavy, so that's very good for us. They're going to attack in with the Thunder Dragon. We're just going to fire Wuboku. And we do know about the Muka Muka in hand, so we're just going to fire the swords and pass back to them. And if the swords last all 3 turns, then we will be able to pull off the Great Moth combo here. We also have the Solemn to serve as a bit of a disruption in case they do have something to clear the Petite Moth. But I'm feeling pretty good about this. We draw Dark Hole, which won't really be the most useful for us here. All we need to do is make it one more turn, and we will be able to bring out the Great Moth on top of the Petite Moth. So I feel very good about that. They're going to try to Soul Exchange our monster. We've got Solemn Judgment to stop that from going through. Unfortunately, they do have another Soul Exchange, so that will be able to clear our monster here, and they will bring out a Sangha of the Thunder. Now, I could have potentially fissured to avoid them, like, double tributing here, but they did have another Thunder Dragon in hand, so they would have just been able to do this either way. Now, I do think I make a bit of a misplay here. I trap hole this Sangha, figuring that I won't really get a good opportunity to trap hole later with the Ultimate Offering, because they can chain it to it. But I think I probably should just let that go, as they can't actually attack this turn, so I could have just fissured it later and just served trap hole as a worst case scenario. But yeah, a bit awkward there, but we're gonna reborn this Song of the Thunder, try hitting in for 2600. Then we'll just set a Fisher and a Magician of Faith, pass back to them. This may be playing a bit too much into board clears, but we've got a Dark Hole, so we're not too concerned with board clears. And yeah, they do Dark Hole that, but that's fine with us. We've got a Fisher to clear the Muka Muka here. So we're doing ultimately pretty good. We also have this sword, so we're just going to fire that. Potentially have them build up more of board presence so that we can Dark Hole later. So yeah, they're going to pass back to us. We draw a Thunder Dragon, so that'll be good at thinning out our deck, especially given that our win con is kind of now just the Exodia piece of the deck. And we do have 2 pieces in hand, so we're not too far out of the way there. We draw a Solemn, which is pretty good. We'll set that, pass back to them. They are going to set another. Swords will expire here. We draw Pot of Greed, which is pretty great. We'll Pot of Greed here. Wuboku plus Change of Hearts, very nice. We're just going to Change of Heart that Muka. That'll increase its attack as well because we have more cards in hand. Hit in for 2700 and then distribute that off for a Thunder Dragon. We'll also set this Wuboku here, pass back to them. And we could probably stall out for a little bit. They're going to Change of Heart our Thunder Dragon. That's fine by us. And they're going to think about this, bring out a Sangan as well. We will indeed have to Wuboku this. They've got a 7 tools, but we've got a Solemn Judgment to stop that from going through. Main 2, they're going to fire this Ultimate Offering, tributing out a Suijin here. They'll be able to get a search off the Sangan as well. They're going to grab a Cannon Soldier, which is quite unfortunate for us. We do have a way to clear the Suijin, but if they've got enough cards in hand to go for the Cannon Soldier play and, you know, just kill us out of nowhere, then we are in a bit of a tough spot. So, bit worrying. We know that one of the cards in hand is a Thunder Dragon. But if they've got 3 normal summonable monsters here, we do just lose the game. So quite unfortunate. They're going to go for swords just to see what we've got. It's a Sangan. They're going to think about this, and they are going to eventually go for this combo. They're going to bring out the Cannon Soldier. Not going to use Prio on that. They're then going to fire Ultimate Offering here and bring out a Muka Muka. Then they're going to Reborn, and yeah, that will indeed be the end of the game because they can just bring out another monster, tribute them all off for Cannon Soldier, and kill us that way. So, you know, game 1 didn't necessarily go as we'd hoped. We actually got really close to pulling off the Great Moth combo, so that's really cool to see. However, we do know about the Dark Hole in hand, so they could have just Dark Holed the Great Moth away afterwards. So, I don't think that this deck is kind of the best, but it is kind of fun to see getting so close to that combo. Hopefully we'll be able to pull it off in game 2. We actually slide out the Exodia pieces, going for things like Mad Sorcerer, White Magical Hat, etc. And the reason we do this is because we feel like if our opponent bricks, then we can get in for damage and either draw or discard. And also, I feel like having the Exodia pieces in the deck kind of splits it 2 ways. You can either go for the Petite Moth combo or just go for the Exodia combo instead. And, you know, Exodia is the much better of the 2, and so there's no real reason most of the time to go for the Great Moth combo. So I feel like, you know, in order to just avoid playing a watered down version of Exodia, we are just going to go all in on Great Moth and try to actually pull it off this time. So we are going to be going first here, as we did lose the first game. And let's see how this goes. Pretty good opening hand. We draw Thunder Dragon the opener. We're going to pitch that and get 2 more Thunder Dragons from deck. This thins us out a little bit and also pairs well with our Change of Heart. We're going to draw 2 here, set this Sangan, set Trap Hole and Wuboku here, pass back to them. And let's see what they do. They're going to go for a Pot of Greed of their own, draw 2. and they are going to pitch a Thunder Dragon, grab 2 more Thunder Dragons to hand here, and they are going to just set 2, pass back to us. Now, we could potentially play this a little bit conservatively, and I don't think that would be a bad thing, as we do kind of want to draw into our combo pieces, but we're actually going to get a bit aggressive here, because we can go for a Mass Sorcerer play. We're going to flip up the Sangan, summon out the Mass Sorcerer, get in for 1900 damage, and also draw, and then just set this Trap Hole, pass back to them. We've got double Trap Hole, so we can Trap Hole their Witch Flip, and then Trap Hole whatever they bring out afterwards as well. So I feel pretty good about that. They are going to flip up the Witch. We've got Trap Hole for that. So we'll be able to clear the Witch. They're going to grab Muka, and then they're going to bring out a Sangan, which is a bit unfortunate. We were hoping that they summon out the Muka as well. Then we Trap Hole that, and then get in for more damage, plus a draw next turn with Mass Sorcerer. But they're just going to hit in for 1,000 here. We've got the Waboku here to protect our Mass Sorcerer. And now I'll just bring out a Lodgin. They've got Trap Hole for that, but we can still crash our Sangan. Unfortunately, they've got Waboku for that. We'll get a search here. Searching out the Cocoon, which is not searchable off of Witch, so we feel pretty good about that. Then we're going to switch the Mass Sorcerer defense, pass back to them. We've got Trap Hole for Muka if they do indeed bring it out. They are going to tribute off the Sangan here for the Thunder Dragon. We want to get in with the Muka attack. So we will Trap Hole that Thunder Dragon. They search out a Witch. And then they're just going to Reborn our Lodgin, which is quite unfortunate, as that we'll be able to clear our Mass Sorcerer. They're just going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw Waboku, but, you know, we don't really want to commit that to board yet. We're just going to fire the Swords and pass back to them. Stall for a little bit. We draw Reborn, which is pretty good for later. But they're just going to set 1, pass again. We draw Witch, which is nice. That can search out the Petite Moth. We can start going for our combo here. And Storage expires. We draw Raigeki, which is really good here. We're going to Raigeki the board away. They do have a Witch, so they will get to search that. And they're going to grab a Sangan. So we do know about some Mukas and Sangans in hand. We're going to flip up this Witch. That's fine by them. We're just going to Reborn to bring out our Mass Sorcerer here. Draw into, hopefully, some things that will help us with our combo. Because Witch can search up Petite Moth. So, you know, I'm hoping that potentially the Mass Sorcerer will draw us into, like, you know, Solemns or Wabokus, etc. And yeah, we do draw into some stuff here. That's pretty good. We're then going to tribute over the Witch with the Thunder Dragon to search at the Petite Moth to get the combo online next turn. They've got Dark Hole here to clear our board. They're going to bring out a Muka. And this is going to be a lot of damage, but honestly, we're fine taking that, as we want to sort of preserve our Petite Moth here instead. We're going to bring out Petite Moth, and since that Muka will continue to be a problem, we're just going to fisher that away. Get in for 300 damage off the Moth, and then in main phase 2, equip it with this Cocoon of Evolution. And they bring out a Sangan. That's fine by us. They're going to try hitting into our Moth here. We do have the Waboku to preserve it, and they'll pass back to us. We draw a White Magical Hat, which is not bad. We're going to bring out this Cannon Soldier and just hit into the Sangan there. Clear that Sangan. They're going to be able to get a search here, searching another Muka, which will be able to clear our Petite Moth, but we do have the Solemn to prevent that from actually hitting the field. They're going to bring out that Muka. We do Solemn it, and we just got to hope we get a good draw here next turn to preserve our Petite Moth even more. They have a Swords, so, you know, we won't be able to attack in here, but we will be able to get our Cannon Soldier going. We're going to set a Sangan, search a Witch with the Sangan. We're trying to deck then here to draw into our Great Moth more. And they bring out a Muka. So they'll be able to hit into our Cannon Soldier here. I think that makes sense, as the Cannon Soldier is the more aggressive thing, and they can always just clear our Petite Moth next turn. We draw Swords, though, so I feel very good about that. We're going to set this Witch, activate Swords, pass back to them, and they are going to gain more attack on that Muka, and then just pass back to us. So we have to draw a Great Moth this turn, or else we're in a bit of a tough spot, but unfortunately, we are not able to do that. And that's really rough, because now Great Moth has to be summoned out on the 4th turn exactly. The Cocoon has been equipped to Petite Moth. So now the best hope we've got here is actually to just equip another Cocoon of Evolution here, and just hope that we draw it in those next 4 turns. Opponent's going to change of heart or set. It's just a Witch, and they're going to Heavy Storm the board away. I mean, it kind of was always a long shot here, and yeah, that will indeed be the end of the game. So I think this shows some of the deck's major flaws. Like, you know, even if we are able to keep Petite Moth on board with Cocoon for 4 turns, we actually have to hard draw the Great Moth, and that's not always doable. It's unsearchable. And if you play more than one copy, it could potentially brick you. And also, Game 1 shows that even if you do have Great Moth, there are just so many ways to disrupt the combo that it's just really hard to actually, you know, pull off. I think maybe there are some other directions you could go with this deck. Maybe go for a Muka Muka Turbo idea with it, as you do have a fair amount of bricks in hand. And with these Jank combos, Muka Muka Turbo is a good way to sort of counteract the Jank, because every brick that you draw is just more fuel for your Muka. So maybe that's something to consider in the future. But I do think that the Exodia plan is a very interesting idea with this deck, as you are playing a bunch of stall cards anyways. You could also probably go for like a mask control sort of strategy, not with Mask Sorcerer, but with more Mask of Darkness, which can bring back your counter traps, like, Waboku, or Waboku isn't a counter trap, but it can bring back Solemns. You could play like Magic Jammers as well. But this may be leaning too heavily into the counter strategy. But I hope that you enjoyed these duels. I think that they were really, really cool. Even if we didn't really get to see Gate Guardian come out, we did get to see 2 pieces in game 1. And now that I've shown off the duels, let's show off Janjo's Gate Guardian deck, so you can see what he was cooking with as well. So this is Janjo's Gate Guardian deck. It has Gate Guardian and 1 each of all the pieces, and then it's playing a Muka Muka Turbo deck besides that, along with some soul exchanges to pair with your big monsters here, and also to potentially pair with Cannon Soldier. As it is kind of convoluted to use soul exchange with Cannon Soldier in this format. You already have to have Cannon Soldier on field in order to use it, but it is possible to do. And yeah, so this deck is pretty interesting. They've also got Robin Goblin here to pair with their 2K Defenders, which are used to stall, and also potentially provide tribute fodder on board for your big monsters here. So again, like the Great Moth deck, you're not really as likely to pull off the combo. But it is still cool to see, and I'm sure that, if people experiment with these decks more, they can potentially optimize them to a point where maybe one duel you could potentially even bring out the Gate Guardian or Great Moth. Although we did get pretty close with Great Moth in game 1, so that was cool to see. But I think that both these decks are really, really cool and really fun if you just want some like casual gameplay in Critter, just trying to go for these sort of over-the-top win conditions. So very cool to see. Thank you again to Janjo for, taking the time to face me and also to make these decks. And I think that they're really cool, really spicy, and so I encourage people to test them out. But if you enjoyed this content, definitely please do subscribe. I'm planning on releasing more Retro Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos in the future. I need to release more Yada videos, as it's been a while since I've done that, so the rest of the week should probably be devoted to making more Yada content. And I also cover other formats as shown in this video here, so Critter is one that I've covered in the past, and I cover a variety of others. And we're planning on just covering more and more into the future. So if that's something that interests you, definitely do subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Also, be sure to comment down below your thoughts on these decks and the games that, faced off. Do you think that Great Moth could potentially take some games in the future if we played more? Or do you think that Gate Guardians just got it outclassed? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, I've been Ben from YJ from Zero, and I'm signing off.